Giving up is all that I know. It's all I ever wanted. After the world became a no, giving up is all that I see. No more future for you, for me. No more glory, no more for me. No more patience. Giving up is what I started to do. Don't take it hard, it's not to do with you. It's what's inside of me. A long, cold, hard stare, that's a part of me, and it won't go anywhere. It won't go away, not even today. It won't go away. We started something, and that something's more than I can take. We started something, but it feels like I'm gonna break. We've started something, but I've had this feeling for too long. It's not what you asked for, it's not what I asked for. Making up is all we ever do. Kinda feels useless if I can't get used to you. But I'm burning up in a way I've never known. I gotta keep trying for you. It's why I keep crying for you.
Blow out the candles, light the fireplace. There ain't another who could ever take your place. The way you smile, it thrills me. You allow me to be the real me, the real. Unplug a phone, I'm coming home. I got some things gotta get off my chest, and you'll do the rest. But you gotta give it in return, 'cause I will give you all of me. Will give you all of me. I will give you all of me. But you gotta give the same in return, the same in return. There aren't many men that can move me, improve me. There aren't many men that can make me sing, sing. Unplug a phone,
Shorty got a thing for me so tight, I just might let her put that ring on me. Give you all of myself when you touch me under my belt. Girl, you make it feel so good. Know if I say I will, I would. Magic in the air, Spanish looking hair. Anytime you need me though, you know that I'll be there. Thinking about taking a trip to Egypt with you. Last man don't want you cause he don't need you, but I do. Good man behind you. Just in case if you forget, I'm here to remind you. Remind you, remind you. You looking for that good man, just look right beside you. Girl, I'm focused on the future with you. Sun and moon, I will make beautiful music with you. You so official in your high heels, and that's exactly why I'm saying that I will.
Give you all of me. Will give you all of me. I will give you all of me. But you gotta give the same in return. The same in return. I will give you all. Love is on its way. Be ready, no time to wait. Love is on its way. Be ready, no time to wait. Love is on its way. Be ready, no time to wait. Love is on its way. The atmosphere is lovely. Love is in the air. Time to shake off stresses. No worries and no cares. Envelop the new moment. Dry your tears away. Open your brand new eyes to a brand new day. Love is on its way. Be ready, no time to wait. Love is on its way. Be ready, no time to wait. I know that life is hard at times. I'm sure that you'll find your star. Love is on its way. Taking back all that's been lost to you. No excuses, do what it is that you must do. Appreciate each lesson that has molded dreams. Dreams assigned with him in mind. Come true, it seems. Be ready, no time to wait. Love is on its way. Be ready, no time to wait. Love is on its way. Be ready, no time to wait. Love is on its way. Patience is key to unlock your dreams. Where you are in life is part of your destiny. We have to go through the fire to be redeemed as gold. Give no resistance for your existence to be told. I've been dragged down to the wire. My prayer is that my life's on its way. Be ready, no time to wait. Love is on its way. Be ready, no time to wait. Love is on its way. Be ready, no time to wait. Love is on its way. Be ready, no time to wait. Love is on its way. Be ready, no time to wait.
Good evening. Do not attempt to adjust your radio. There is nothing wrong. We have taken control as to bring you this special show. We will return it to you as soon as you are grooving. Welcome to station WEFUNK, better known as We Funk, or deeper still, the Mothership Connection, home of the extraterrestrial brothers, dealers of funky music, P-Funk, Uncut Funk, the bomb.
Coming to you directly from the mothership. Top of the chocolate Milky Way. 500,000 kilowatts of P-Funk power. So kick back, dig, while we do it to you in your eardrums. Oh, me? I'm known as Lollipop Man, alias the long-haired sucker. My motto is... Make mine the P-Funk. I want my funk uncut. Make my funk the P-Funk. I want to get funked up. I want the bomb. I want the P-Funk. Yeah. Y'all. Now this is what I want y'all to do. If you got faults, defects, or shortcomings, you know, like arthritis, rheumatism, or migraines, whatever part of your body it is, I want you to lay it on your radio. Let the vibes flow through. Funk not only moves, it can remove. Dig? The desired effect is what you get when you improve your interplanetary functionship. Sir Lollipop Man, chocolate-coated freaking habit former. Doing it to you in 3D. So groovy that I dig me. Once upon a time called now. Somebody says, is there funk after death? I say it's 7 Up. Yeah. P-Funk.
Fellas, I'm ready to get up and do my thing.
Go ahead.
I want to get into it, man, you know. Like a sex machine, man. Moving, doing it, you know. Can I count it off? 1, 2, 3, 4. Get up, get on up. Get up, get on up. Stay on the scene. Get on up. Like a sex machine. Get on up. Get up, get on up. Get up, get on up. Stay on the scene. Get on up. Like a sex machine. Get on up. Get up, get on up. Stay on the scene. Get on up. Like a sex machine. Get on up. Wait a minute. Shake your arm. Then use your palm. Stay on the scene. Like a sex machine. You got to have the feeling. Sure you're born. Get it together. Right on, right on. Get up, get on up. Get up, get on up. Get up, get on up. Get on up. You said the feeling. You got to get. You give me fever and a cold sweat. The way I like it is the way it is. I got mine. Don't worry about his. Get up, get on up. Stay on the scene. Get on up. Like a sex machine. Get on up. Get up, get on up. Get up, get get on up. Bobby, should I take him to the bridge? Go ahead. Take him on to the bridge. Take him to the bridge. Can I take him to the bridge? Yeah. Take him to the bridge. Yeah. Hit me now. Come on. Stay on the scene like a sex machine. The way I like it is the way it is. I got mine, dig it. He's got his. Stay on the scene like a loving machine. Stay on the scene like a loving machine. Stay on the scene. I want to count it off one more time, yeah. Go ahead. You want to hit it like it did on the top, fellas? Hit it like it did on the top. Hit it now. Get on up. Get on up. Get up. Get on up. Get up. Get on up. Get on up. Get on up. Stay on the scene. Get on up. Like a loving machine. Get on up. Get up. Get on up. Taste. Get on up. A piano. Get on up. Taste. Get on up. A piano. Get on up. Get up, get on up, get up, get on up. Stay on the scene, get on up, like a sex machine. Get on up, you got to have the feeling. Get on up, sure as you're born. Get on up, get it together. Right on, 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 right on. Get up, get on up, get up, get on up, and then shake your money maker, 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 shake your money maker. Get up, get on up, 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 get up, get on up. Get up, get on up, get up, get on up, get up, get on up. Can we hit it like we did one more time from the top? Can we hit it like that one more time? One more time. Let's hit it and quit. Go ahead. Can we hit it and quit? Yeah. Can we hit it and quit? Yeah. Can we hit it and quit? Yeah. Hit it.
All right, Nubia Hood Radio. This is the Black Book, the Netaru, Brother Phil L. We are back. Love the music. We're just gonna jam out for about 1 or 2 more tracks, and I'm feeling that groove. We're gonna give Dr. Rhkty a shout. She's gonna get online, and then we are going to be live talking about the Meta Netta and ancient Kemet. Word up.
Deep heart, heavy, down in misery. All right. Ow! Hey. The feeling. All right. Baby, 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 baby. I got that feeling, baby. Baby. Sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down. I'm around down a level with the ground. Baby. I said level with the ground. Baby, you treat me
We are live. You guys are tuned into the Black Book in our Bibliography, Appendices, Shoutouts, and Acknowledgements section. And as you guys all know, we have a very, very special guest today, which is one of my sabbats, my teachers, Dr. Rhkty, who we're going to get online in about 10 minutes, roughly 10 minutes or so. And we're just gonna basically sit back and discuss the Meta Netta and the ancient Kemet, ancient Kemites. And so, what's up? So just sit back, kick it out with us, and relax. One thing we're going to also talk about is the Peret Imheru. And if you guys have any questions, drop it in the chat line, and the brothers in here will shoot the questions over to me. But basically, chill out with us. Anyhow, we want to also read into the record, Dr. Rhkty's bibliography. Or biography, excuse me, if you guys don't know. Dr. Rhkty has spent many years as a community activist in Chicago. She attended Chicago City Colleges, the University of Illinois as an undergrad, Spertus College of Jewish Studies, and then received a full 4-year fellowship to the University of Chicago Oriental Institute, which is the leading school of Egyptology in the United States, to study in the PhD program in Egyptology. So she got her PhD in that. While in Chicago, she began working with Dr. Jacob Caruthers and others at Northeastern College. A group of them founded the Kemetic Institute and later founded the Kemetic Temple of Chicago. Dr. Rhkty was initiated as a priestess, Hemet Neter, or Neteret, of the temple. Among the many things that she did at the Kemetic Institute was teaching Medu Neter, or the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, and directing and teaching in the Institute's adult and children's program. Dr. Rhkty also taught Egyptian hieroglyphs at Northeastern College in Chicago for 2 years, and she has been an instructor of Medu Neter for now over 25 years, teaching privately and hosting workshops on the language and other related topics. In 1983, Dr. Rhkty spent 4 months in Senegal, West Africa, working and visiting with the renowned African historian Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop. Later, she translated 2 of his books from French to English. Dr. Rhkty was a founding member of the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations in 1983. In 1985, she moved to New York to teach hieroglyphs at City College of New York. While in New York, Dr. Rhkty established ASCAC, which is the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations study groups, and was a regular speaker at First World, a community lecture forum in Harlem. She became a popular, much-demanded lecturer, being one of a few African-American experts on Medu Neter language, and at that time, the only woman lecturing on the subject of Kemet. She has lectured and continues to lecture on a variety of topics relating to ancient Africa and Kemetic and Kemet at universities and colleges all over the U.S. and overseas. Dr. Rhkty has contributed to numerous special programs in the United States with museums and several universities. In 1988, she founded her own institute for the study of Medu Neter language and history, the Institute of Kemetic Philology. From 2005 to 2009, Dr. Rhkty was an instructor of foreign languages at Russ College in Holly Springs, Mississippi, teaching French and Mandarin Chinese. She has a strong background in linguistics, having studied and obtained some proficiency in French, Chinese, Egyptian hieroglyphs, ancient Coptic, and biblical Hebrew. Word up. So let's go ahead and get Dr. Rhkty online. Bear with us 1 second. I should hear it ring.
Imhotep.
Imhotep, Dr. Rhkty. Uncle Jasaneb, Neskret.
Uncle Nefer, Dua, Neshkeret.
I'm doing well, quite well. Nefer and Iquir, which Nefer means beautiful. You can hear me, right?
To you, I can.
Excellent. So we got you on the air. We had just read into your bio, long bio. So it's a great honor to have you on, as usual. The way I always say that when I have my teachers on. So, Dr. Rhkty, we got a lot of questions. One of the questions was what is the Medu Neter? If we want to just dive right in.
Dua. And first, let me start off by saying it's good to be on your program, and I'm very happy that you have me on this evening.
No doubt.
Okay, let's just dive into Medu Neter. So, what is Medu Neter? Medu Neter is the language that was spoken in the Hapi Iteru, the Nile River Valley. For thousands and thousands of years, and we have written evidence of Medu Neter dating back to about 8,000 years BC, before Christ. But the language was spoken in that area for many thousands of years, even before that, before it became written. So it is both a written and the spoken language of the African people who lived in the northeastern part of Africa and up and down along the Nile River in that whole area. And the language is related to many other African languages, many other African groups of people, go back or trace their language, their culture back to the Nile Valley. And so there are many living dialects of the ancient Medu Neter as well. So it is a very, very ancient African language spoken by Black people in that part of Africa. But what makes it really particularly important is because of writing. They were among the first people that we know of to actually write down their language in a very sophisticated, highly developed manner. And they left many thousands of written records concerning all aspects of their culture. And we can go back and read the Medu Neter today and learn all about these ancient African people in their own words from their writings. Oh, and I also have to say something about Medu Neter specifically. The word Medu Neter means the language, words of nature. And it's a title or a designation or a definition for the language that they speak. They call it the words of nature. And so there are two parts to that, and that is the word nature, which means everything that exists nature. So we think of it in terms of nature, all of existence. And the other part is Medu, which means words or language. So when you put it together, the language or words of nature. And when I get a chance to talk about the writing a little later on, that will become very clear maybe why they call their language the words of nature. But that is the meaning of Medu Neter.
Right. Dr. Rhkty, so we got a question in the chat room. Why do you think we actually started writing? Why, if everyone was kind of talking in a certain language, what was the need to start writing things down?
Dua for the question. Why, and I think you have to think of it even more universally. Why do any group of people start writing? Writing helps to facilitate communication. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. In ancient Africa, just like in modern Africa, different groups of people speak different languages. And there are hundreds of languages spoken on the continent of Africa. And there were hundreds of different languages spoken up and down the Nile Valley, River Valley. And throughout that whole area, writing, I think, helped, for one, to help to facilitate communication between people that live up and down the River Valley, who were speaking many different dialects and sometimes many different languages, but they were all able to communicate in one written language. Another reason that comes to mind is the feeling of the necessity of leaving information for the future, for posterity. And the best way to do that, or one good way to do that, is to write it down. One thing that you see in the Medu Neter writing, they will actually often say that this is written down for those who come after us, to be able to read this and to learn from this.
Right.
There's other instances, for example, in a person's tomb or in the temples, it'll say, whoever reads this, whoever sees this, read it and pass this on to your children. So they often remark in their own writing the importance of this is being written down so that we can pass this information on for posterity, forever and ever and ever. They actually say that. So those are two reasons that come to mind.
And as far as ancient Kemet is concerned, well, actually, there's people that may not even know ancient Kemet and the people and kind of like what was the culture, you know, with the, you know, how were the people back then? There's a couple questions about that. Basically, like what was ancient Kemet about?
Okay. Well, I'm just remind me of that in a moment, but
Okay.
just to come to that question itself. When we read the Medu Neter, that is really where we have learned the most about their culture and how they lived and what was important in their life and their society, from reading their writings in their own words. And they wrote a lot about how they lived their lives and what was most important to them. And when we as African scholars read their writings, we're beginning to see what their culture was like and their life was like and what was important to them. But one of the things that we've also noticed as scholars is that when we read other people's interpretation, other people who are non-Africans, when we read their interpretation of the ancient writings, they're not quite what we would. They're not as we see it when we're reading it.
Right.
So we have learned that it's very important for us to learn to read Medu Neter for ourselves, so that we can see the African-centered culture and thought in the language and the people that we're reading about. But so your question is a really big question, because it could be answered it would need to be answered on almost every aspect of their culture and their life. So that's really a full question. We need to get a little bit more specific with it.
Right.
But I would just start off by, go ahead.
I guess one of the things is, one of the questions is, why is it important for having an African-centered curriculum versus Eurocentric? Now, we could ultimately go on to why, the reason, but wanted to get your mind on that.
Okay, an African-centered curriculum.
Right.
First of all, African people, and I'm just going to really go all the way back to Kemet and just looking there and looking at what we learned from the Medu Neter. We lived so differently than we do in the Western world.
Right.
That Western culture and African culture are just completely different in their worldview and their way of conceptualizing in almost every aspect of their way of life and culture, and on every level. They're so completely different. I don't want to use the word opposite because I don't believe in opposites, but they're just almost diametrically opposed to each other. And when we are living in this culture, when we speak English, this language we're speaking now, we are so completely out of ourselves and out of our natural state of being that it would completely surprise most people. When we look at the world from an African worldview, it's completely different than looking at the world from a Western worldview. That is where the problem starts and the issues start and begin right there.
Right.
We need to understand, as African people, we have a way of being, a way of thinking, a way of living, a way of speaking, just a way of being And we don't, a lot of times we African Americans here don't really realize how far away we are from our traditional culture and from our spirit, our natural spirit and our natural energy. The only way to get back to that is to study Africa, African languages, study Kemet and Medu nature, and to look at the way we were, and to get back into ourselves. I think many of us who live here in America realize that there's something fundamentally wrong with this world, with this worldview, this way of conceptualizing, this way of acting, this behavior in the society. And many of us feel that there's something fundamentally wrong. It's not in our spirit. It's not us. And so we know that we are always searching for something else, looking for something else. And we're always looking at where we come from, who our ancestors were, what our origins were. Because many of us, our descendants, our ancestors actually, we all know, were brought here from the continent. And when they arrived here, everything that they were was stripped from them. Their spirituality, their language, their culture, everything. We know that all of that was stripped from us when our ancestors were brought here and replaced with something that was totally not us, right? With a new religion, with a new language, with a new way of governing ourselves, with a new way of living, with everything that's just not us. And so looking for that African curriculum versus a Western curriculum, first we need to study our history, study our past, learn the ways of our ancestors. And in order to do that, there's a lot of work that needs to be put into that. It's not so easy just to create an African curriculum versus a Western curriculum. You have to really understand what that African curriculum would be.
Right. Absolutely. In fact, it kind of gets me into one of the things that has been misinterpreted. It's been corrected now, but most people are still saying the Egyptian Book of the Dead and things like that, which is a incorrect saying for the Peret and Heru, which is the book of coming forth by day. And just that alone is just a play on words, where in one aspect one can look at, well, you say Egyptian Book of the Dead, and you're going to think, well, they mean death and this, that, and the other. And on another aspect is the book that's all about life, the Peret and Heru. And so just those two viewpoints, where one group of people that interpret Meta Netter, they're going to look at it from this perspective, as opposed to another group looking at it from another perspective that is the real perspective. And so
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. That is such a really good example, the Peret and Heru, something that most people are actually familiar with in the form of the Book of the Dead. So when we read about Kemet and Kemetic culture, in the words or in the interpretation of Western scholars, they have interpreted the writings from their worldview and their perspective, which is completely different from the worldview and perspective of an African person who's African-centered. Two different ways of seeing, of looking at it. So first of all, the only way to get to the truth and a true understanding of Medu nature and the writings, like the Peret and Heru, is one, to study Medu nature. so that your teacher can teach you the difference between, or can teach you how to look at the different meanings of the words in the same text, or teach you how to understand words and language and definitions that are given to words. But the Book of the Parrot and Meru is, as a tabletop book out here, like Wallace Budge's book, The Book of the Dead, has, as you said, nothing to do with death, and that the Parrot and Meru, the word parrot means coming forth. M in Heru is the word for day or light. And it has nothing, the book itself has nothing to do with the Book of the Dead. But if you were just walking through a bookstore, you would never know that. And you just picked up the book and started reading it. Not only is the title of the Book of the Dead completely misleading, but almost every sentence in it that you would read is equally misleading. And only by learning Medu Neter will we begin to glimpse the real meaning and essence of the book. The Kemetic people really didn't have a concept of death as there is in the Western world. They totally believed in continued life, or life eternal, or life everlasting, and transitioning from one stage of life to the next stage of life. And all of this is explained in the Parrot and Meru, where they actually go through different stages of this transition, leading one to the next stage of life. And so there's nothing about death or dying in that book. But without knowing Medu Neter, one would not know that. But when we look at the meanings of the words from an African perspective, then it becomes totally clear that that's not what this book is about. There's a word for a coffin, like the body is placed in when the body dissolves, and the word for the coffin is Per-Ankh, meaning the house of life. So that means that box that this dissolved body is placed in is the house of life, because that body is because it's the beginning of life. And everything that has to do with the cemetery has the word life in it. Everything that has to do with the funerary celebrations has the word life in it. Nobody's thinking about death in Kemet. So that's just one little piece of what is, fundamentally wrong with Western interpretations of Medu Neter literature and writings. And not to mention the fact that Wallace Budge's Parrot and Meru is backwards. When the papyrus was actually found, it was found in pieces, and Wallace Budge tried to put the pieces together in a pattern that he pretty much thought they belonged in, but he put the pieces together somewhat in a way that doesn't make sense. Right. So they're putting the cemetery last instead of first, which all comes from a misunderstanding of what is happening there. And another thing, the book itself is meant to be used not only for transition from this life to the next life, but in this life, and all the transitions that we go through in this life. So it's a very rich book with a lot of meaning and importance for the people. But once again, learning Medu Neter is so critical to understanding that.
Absolutely. Wow. One of the brothers in the chat room even said, he was like, per onk, wow. That kind of just sums it up right there. And you can really take that small example and go, hey, guess what? You take that particular subject on just how they misinterpreted a book, and you can apply that to many other things. For the Christian family out there, how the Bible, a lot of the writings in there were kind of taken and just placed together. But that's a whole nother story. Let's see. So we're experiencing death now? What do you mean? Oh, well, okay. Is that a question? So a question is, so are we experiencing death now? I guess that's more like a transitional state.
Or it's a philosophical question. We're experiencing death now.
Yeah.
When I hear that question, philosophically,
I guess
it makes me think of, yes, we are experiencing death of ourselves. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Death of ourselves, death of our natural being, the being who we really are, and what is our real spirit, our real energy, our real essence. As a matter of fact, Chancellor Williams made a statement in one of his books when he was talking about what happened to the Africans when they were brought here. And one little statement says when they took our language, we died. When they robbed us of our language and we no longer speak our language. Language is the embodiment of culture, or the way we it incorporates our total being. When we speak, we're not just speaking words with our mouths, but our bodies and our brains and everything. And when that was taken away from us, we lost so much, almost everything. Our way of conceptualizing the world was lost. And so it's very, very, when we talk about dying and death, that's kind of like a dying and death. We are no longer who we were. Even though we have we have a connection with our ancestral consciousness, our spirit, our energy is still within us as African people. And we endeavor every day to reach back to that consciousness, to that energy, that spirit of that we in essence are. We are always reaching back to that and trying to connect with that. But some of us never do. But most of us are reaching back for that constantly all the time. And the ancestors have kept it alive for us and kept that connection alive for us. So we, of course, have never really lost it, but we have work to do to step back into ourselves, so to speak, and who we really are. And the Western world is killing us. It hasn't killed us, but it's so weakening. I'll put it that way. It's so weakening.
So, yeah, one of the brothers said, I don't know you personally, but I love you and your insight. No doubt. Yeah, it seems like since if death is what we're experiencing now, then what do you think comes after death? It's going to be life again. So, I always think of it almost like a season where you have a plant that goes through, or a tree or whatever, it goes through a season where it appears to die, when it just goes into the state of sleeping and then starts to wake up again. And that seems really where we're at and starting to move forward into reconnecting, I guess you can say, with our original selves, which is important. And it makes me think about this, where when we hear the Medu and we see it, it starts to actually resonate a certain energy that's inside of ourselves, naturally, you know what I mean? And for the listeners out there that are into the hip hop, it's kind of the same thing where hip hop had a pure form, and then the language started changing as mainly as the corporation started taking it over, and so you have this weird kind of language then was spoken, and now there's a lot of people that are trying to reach back out of rap music and then get back to hip hop as a culture, which is quite fascinating. And listeners out there, y'all definitely getting some jewels from Dr. Rhkty, because just take that and manifest, and you know what I mean, put it inside you and think about that. Dr. Rhkty, another question that we have is about the babies, teaching the children about the meta netta, and where do we start? There's a lot of people out there that have their children that are in schools, and they got their curriculum going, and where should they go and all. And of course, I'm always gonna be like, y'all gotta go holler at Dr. Rhkty, you know what I'm saying? So wanted to get your knowledge on that.
Right, to offer that. It's really important. Teaching the children is the most important challenge or mission that we all have right now, actually. The public schools are killing our children, mentally, socially, even physically, in almost every way. And there is no intent in public schools for our children anyway, to actually learn anything. It's all part of really to oppress our ability to learn, to think, to create, because thinking and creating are not part of public school. But to learn, but our children could benefit exponentially from learning the Medu Neter from a very early age. And one of the things that the University of Commission Sciences, with Dr. Nalan Valentine and myself and Dr. Phil Valentine actually started, was a children's school called the Institute of Self-Mastery.
Right.
And so the Institute of Self-Mastery was designed and is intended to teach the children the Medu Neter.
Yes.
And online, we realize we're not everywhere, because our people are everywhere, but how could we reach everyone? And that is to do as we do with the adult school, and that is to teach online. So for 2 years, I've taught in the Institute of Self-Mastery children's classes. My youngest was 6 when he joined, and the oldest that I had was 15. So, and I've taught children from anywhere between 6 to 15 over the 2 years. And they learned so much. I mean, they learned to read the Medu Neter. They learned about their culture. They learned about the math and sciences, Kemet. They learned a lot about the language, everything about their history, and they absolutely loved it. And the last class we had, the last semester, I had the children write a little book in Medu Neter. And the child who was originally 6 years old, he was 7 by the time he finished the semester. And his actually turned out to be the best book. But anyway, he wrote it in Medu Neter. And he had photographs or pictures of
Excellent.
Photographs that he took. Yeah, it was just really, really wonderful. I'd like to just say something about culture and children and learning a language, and by pulling up another example of another group of people who see language and culture as important to teaching their children, and that is Jewish people who have Hebrew school, where they make it an absolute necessity for all Jewish children must learn
Dr.
Some Hebrew.
Do-
And so,
Dr.
yes.
Rhkty, I'm sorry. We're actually having a little bit of trouble hearing you. It's kind of breaking up a bit.
Really? Okay. Okay.
I don't know if that's on your
Is that
end
better?
or our end. Say again.
Is that better?
Yes, that's better.
Okay. So I was talking about the importance of teaching our children. Did you
Yes.
hear about when I was talking about the Institute of Self-Mastery?
Yes, we did. But it started to chop up at that moment about how you guys started the Institute of Self Mastery. You had the youngest was 6, and the oldest was 15. I was even saying, well, shoot, we all children. You need some 40 and 50-year-olds. But
I know.
Yes.
This is just for the children.
Right. Right.
Well, we do have the adult classes,
Yes.
but just for the children.
Right.
And the 6-year-old turned 7 before he finished. And the semester, his book was the best book. He took photographs for his book, pictures, and then the book was written in Medu in his own handwriting. And it was a really, really beautiful book. The children learned a lot about their culture, their language, and they did really, really well, and it'll stay with them for life. I highly recommend children joining the Institute of Self-Mastery or finding other teachers who are teaching Medu to the children.
Beautiful.
We envision our Medu school for our children, after school programs.
Dr. Rhkty,
For the children, for example. Yes.
you started breaking up just now.
Okay, it must be my phone.
Okay.
I could give you another phone number.
Sure.
I don't know. That might work.
Sure. How about we do that?
Okay.
And yeah, we'll be right back. This is the Black Book, the Netheru, Brother Phil L. with Dr. Rhkty, the Meta, Ancient Kemet, and more. And we will be right back.
Hotep, this is the Jawline Cub.
Peace, family. This is Brother Marcus.
Join us Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard.
As we read selections from Baba Amos Wilson's book, Blueprint for Black Power, essential reading in the face of white supremacy. Black Power!
Peace, this is J.O. Tune in every Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific, 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Not For Hire radio show on NubiaHoodRadio.com. Come and take your first step with us to making a difference and creating a change. Stand for something or fall for anything. Peace.
This is to the memory of Dan Roy Henry. Too much enemy fire to catch a friend. Strays from the same shade, nigga, we on the same team. Giving you respect, I expect the same thing.
Tune in to Herbal Intellect each Saturday, 4 to 4:30 Pacific or 7 to 7:30 Eastern Time with your host, herbalist and physiologist, Jennifer. Each week, get vital information on how to take care of your body without the use of harsh chemicals. Learn to use what the earth has to offer to heal yourself. Only on NubiaHoodRadio.com. In health, Hotep.
All right, the Black Book. This is the Netheru, Brother Phil L. on Nubia Hood Radio. We are having a beautiful and wonderful conversation with master linguist Dr. Rhkty Amin, which is Sabat, which means teacher in the language of Meta. Sabati is for a teacher that's male, so it's kind of interesting on the language. So Dr. Rhkty, pardon for the technical difficulties, but as you were, what you were saying.
I was just talking about the importance of teaching our children the Medu Neter to learn their history and an ancient classical African language, which is Medu Neter, and the importance of setting up after-school programs for Medu Neter and finding capable teachers to teach in these after-school programs for children to learn our culture. And the Institute of Self-Mastery, which is an online program for teaching Medu Neter to children between the ages of, I have to actually say 6, but since I have a 6-year-old, between the ages of 6 and 14 is a wonderful place for children to put your child in an online program, because you could do that after school, or for homeschool children, because all the children that I taught were actually homeschool children. But we also have evening classes for children who are not homeschooled to be in an online program as well. So in the tradition, in the same kind of tradition as the Hebrew school, where Jewish people teach their children Hebrew language and culture, we should be doing the same thing for our children, teaching our classical language, Medu Neter, and our classical culture from Kemet for our children as well. And if anyone needs help in how to do that, I'm available to help facilitate that. If anybody has any questions on how they could get started doing something like that in their community, or taking the online class at UKS or the Institute of Self-Mastery.
Absolutely.
But it's really about teaching the children now. It really is. We have to pass it on. It must be passed on. And our children, it's key and central that we pass it on to the children.
Yes. And out there, I know one thing that I was searching for is, the calendar. I mean, for all the people out there, you can do so much with the Medu Neter. You can make calendars. You can make T-shirts. I think it's Brother Red Pill and Blue Pill. They actually have T-shirts that they make at Know the Ledge Radio. Shout out to them. And these are things that as far as even business-wise, people can get into. Not just talking the language and really learning the spirituality, but even just making art, which art is spirituality. If people are looking at business-wise, being teachers, like you said, learning from master teachers and passing that knowledge on. So that's absolutely wonderful. And the thing that I love the most is how it's called the Institute for Self-Mastery. You know what I mean? Where you don't hear that from... you go to I went to this university. Well, okay. I went to this school. Okay. It doesn't say, well, we're trying to master ourselves, which is the most important thing. I love it.
Yeah.
Do you find that, here's a question from the chat room, do you find that it comes easier to children versus adults as far as teaching?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In the children's classes, the children tend to learn very quickly. Mm-hmm. They enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. We actually make the classes fun. We have, besides, let me put it this way. They do a lot of writing. They learn to write Medu Neter. So because it's a pictorial language with pictures of everything in nature, they enjoy learning how to write. They enjoy all other aspects of the language. We learn about math, the Kemetic mathematics, which is different from the Western mathematics. We learned about science and the calendars and a lot of cultural things. So we learn the culture through the language. The children love that. We do a lot of speaking, so there's a lot of oral conversation. And then in our classes, the children we're speaking Medu Neter. So just the basic things that you would say in a classroom situation, we're saying, the children and the teacher are saying it in Medu Neter. So we have all aspects of the language are covered, from conversation, reading, writing, culture, everything. And the children find it a whole lot of fun. We incorporate games, songs, what else do we have? Puzzles, all kinds of activities, that you would have in teaching children any language. So it's much broader. We do more with children we incorporate more things with teaching the children than we do with adults. For example, the adults don't get to sing songs and meditations. Adults don't get to draw pictures of the Nasu. They don't get to do all of that fun stuff that we do with the children. I actually wrote a book just for children recently, by the way. Mm-hmm. It's called Medu in Keradu, Medu for Children series. And the first volume is about food names in Medu. So it's a really nice book. It's on Amazon.com, and it's just for children. And there's pictures of maybe 20 different foods, the name in Medu and how to pronounce it. And then at the back of the book, the children get to learn how to ask questions concerning food, like, are you hungry? What do you want to eat? Things like that. And my intent is to have more books in the series. The next book in the series will be the nature book. Mm. And we've already working on that. So we're also, one of my goals is to produce books just for children in Medu to learn the language.
You know, I actually learn a lot from children's books even. I wish that, some of the adult books, they could be so confusing. Not with the Medu, but I'm talking about, like, if I'm reading, like, one of my physics books and things like that, it's so confusing for adults and stuff. So it's actually nice even just going to the children's books, you know what I mean? And I want to do some of that. That sounds fun, being in there and singing some songs and stuff. I'd like that. Being in class.
I know you would.
Yeah. So,
Right. And that's another thing, because you were talking about businesses a moment ago, and there are maybe just a few people who have actually written have written some beautiful music, songs, Medu. And these are adults. This is adult music I'm talking about right now. That's out here, and it's absolutely beautiful. So if you're a musician, in writing songs and writing Medu music, we really need that. You could study what music would have sounded like in Kemet, or you could sing songs in Medu, which we have a couple of people that have already put some music out there. Poetry, and Pata, you are a poet, and you have written poetry in Medu. But that is something as well. Music and poetry and art, Kemetic art, they're maybe a handful of really very good artists who do Kemetic art, who have studied the Medu and incorporated that in their art, and making jewelry and clothing and just everything. And no matter what you do, there's a word in Medu for it. And if you have a business, you could put the Medu word for whatever you're doing, whether it's metal work or making soap or making honey or whatever, onto whatever it is the product is that you're producing, so that it becomes a product very identifiable as a Kemetic or African product. If you can understand what I'm talking about here.
Absolutely. In fact, I was even thinking about, as far as people that are into the hip hop, one of the things for the brothers and sisters out there that are spitting their rhymes and everything, they can actually incorporate Medu into their lyrics and there's a sister, Rock, shout out to her, that actually does that. She had a whole bunch of different albums that's always filled with Kemetic messages in it. Same with Narubi Salah, another sister out there, shout out to her. And you can imagine somebody even if they're rhyming in English, they can throw in Medu words into their language, or even writing it onto their album covers or names of a song. I mean, I would actually like to see a album where somebody's actually telling the story of the the Peret M. Heru. I'd like to see somebody just describing, you know what I mean, describing certain stories that you always hear about. How did Shu and Geb and Nut and all of these different Netherus, how did they come forward? How did they manifest themselves? That would be something that, you know, if somebody dropped an album about that, and where it's flowing, you can hear the poetry in it. They even doing like this. If you had one side that says English, and then another side where somebody's just doing it all in meta netta, you know, that could be even a good teaching tool for the children as well, and for adults. And you know, because you know me, I say adults and children are kind of the same thing, you know. Another question, Dr. Rhkty, is the meta netta from the chat room? Is the meta netta the oldest or the most ancient system, or that's known right now, or is there something older? Where is it in relation to the Coptic and Demotic hieroglyphic writing systems?
Brother Washadet, for the question, Medu Neter is a very, very ancient language. It is at least 15,000 years old. We have writing from 8,000 BC. So, and the writing became a very highly developed writing around between 7,000 and 8,000 BC. It became quite developed to the point where you could actually begin to write. But it was spoken thousands of years before that, or dialects of it was spoken thousands of years before we even see it in writing. So that's important to remember. Plus, it was spoken in one area of Africa. And there other languages, since our history and our people and human beings go back many thousands of years, not millions of years. There are many languages that are older than Medu Neter. But what makes Medu Neter unique and special is that it's written down in a very highly developed writing system, where we have thousands, literally, of papyrus, of books on papyrus, and writings on temple walls that talk about all aspects of life. That's what makes Medu Neter unique, and that is the writing. So that's why we call it a classical language, because here's a language that we don't have to guess about or speculate about these people and the culture. They wrote it down for us. So even though there are many older languages spoken on the continent, since we go back millions of years as human beings on the planet and on the continent, but it's the oldest language for which we have a written record of. That's what makes Medu Neter unique and special. And then there are all different stages of the written language itself. There's the old form, the classical form, the Demotic form, the hieratic form, the Coptic, which is one of the later stages, and there are all the other dialects that developed from Medu Neter once the people spread out to other parts of the continent. So what makes it special is writing.
Absolutely. Now, would you say that a lot of the, I mean, because we can actually trace a lot of, it seems like we can trace a lot of these languages just back to the Medu Neter. That's the same with even with religions. You can trace a lot of it back to the Medu Neter and the description of, for example, I was talking to somebody about, they were trying to describe the whole situation with you have Jesus, Mary, and I was saying, well, that's like Isis and Horus, or Auset and Heru. And so you can actually trace that back to the source. And I was mentioning that it's important to go to the source of where something comes from, because then you can really figure out what has transpired throughout history. If you just pick one little small section, you may not get all of the information you need, and you should always go back to the source. And so would you say that a lot of the languages spawned off of MetaNet?
Yes, there are many African languages that are spoken today, to this very day, which have their origins in the African language tree, which Medu Neter is one of the root languages on that tree of languages, so to speak. For example, Wolof, which is spoken in modern-day Senegal. One of our great scholars, Dr. Rhkty Diop, was a comparative linguist, and he showed emphatically that Medu Neter and Wolof are the same language, that Wolof derived directly from the Medu Neter, and that they agree on every level of the grammar and the phonology of the language. And then there's the Yoruba language even, and the Yoruba people say that they came from the Hapi Iteru, that they came from the Nile Valley, and they moved out from there and settled into the part of Africa where they are now. And then there are other people, for example, Dr. Biolope Obenga, who was a student of Dr. Diop, who is working on showing the relationship between the Bantu languages and Medu Neter, the Bantu languages spoken in southern Africa. And the people themselves, having derived or moved down the river from the southern part of the country, actually had the Bantu language group is spoken down there, but so are other language groups. So when we talk about languages, oftentimes we talk about language trees, like the Indo-European language tree, and all of the branches of the tree. But so many people on the continent actually trace their beginnings back to the Nile Valley, because when Kemet began to break up and people spread out from there into other parts of the continent, they were speaking dialects, period dialects of the Medu Neter, and then they developed into different dialectical forms wherever they settled. So the Wolof and related languages, the Yoruba and related languages, the Bantu, are all branches on the African language tree.
Wow.
But I will have to say this, and this is really important. There are hundreds of languages spoken on the continent of Africa, but many of them, a large number of them have their origins in Medu Neter, in the Nile Valley. And because of that, when you think of a classical language that best represents African languages and culture and cultural unity and linguistic unity on the continent, it's Medu Neter. Plus the fact that it is a written language, it undisputed, to be able to be learned by everybody. That is the main language that we need to focus on teaching and learning.
Dr. Rhkty, can you still hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay. All right. Another question that just popped up. Can you suggest some reference materials on the dialects of it coming from the Medu Neter, like some books, maybe things to reference the people?
I can think of a few. First, I would start off with the there's a couple of books in French. I'm just trying to think of something in English right now. Dr. Diop wrote at least 4 or 5 books showing the genetic relationship between Medu Neter and other African languages. But they're in French. Parente génétique, the origins of the parent language of Medu Neter and the that's one. There's another book, a very famous book about Yoruba language and culture, and I can't think of it right now, but where they talk about their origins in the Nile Valley. I can't think of the name that book either. There are several people who have written a lot of good papers, including Dr. Obenga. So, Pata, I'm going to actually have to get some of these books to you so that on your next program you can give the information to your audience, really.
Yeah, what the sister that actually asked that question, she speaks French. So that's kind of interesting right there.
All right, so when I give you the list, I won't be afraid to put the French books on there, because there are more in French that are talking about comparative languages, linguistics. Even with African languages, there are more of them that are in French than in English, so I'll be sure to give those to you.
Nijem, Duawu. Excellent. Let's see, well, here's something that's kind of interesting. Is there a way that you could give kind of like a mini lesson? Nijem, okay, Nijem means okay in Medu Neter. So for the listeners out there that and Duawu means thank you. When in fact the meaning of Hotep, a lot of people are saying, oh, that says hi. No, it doesn't. I'm not high. It means common satisfaction. And so when we introduced each other and we said Em Hotep, that means common satisfaction. And then to say go in satisfaction is when people are saying Shem Imhotep. So that's for the people out there that are hearing Hotep, Hotep, Hotep. What does that really mean? And Dr. Rhkty, you want to expand on that?
I'd be really glad to, because I really would like everybody speaking Medu Neter. Hotep is the word that we use the most often, right? Everyone says Hotep now. And Hotep is, in the writing itself, it is a picture of an offering table or an offering slab upon which offerings to the ancestors are placed. And so the first meaning of Hotep is offering an offering. And then by extension, it means something like to be satisfied with an offering. That we know from the writing, from the written language itself. So when we're saying Hotep, we're giving an offering to the person that we are saying it to. And by extension, in the modern world that we live in today, people use it to mean peace sometimes. So, like, people will say Hotep, and in their mind, they are feeling peace be unto you, offering be unto you, satisfaction be unto you. That's the spirit or meaning of Hotep. From the writing where we see the picture of Hotep being a table for an offering for the ancestors. That is the meaning of Hotep. And we say Em Hotep, that means come with satisfaction. And today in 2014-15, we say come in peace. Or Shem, which means to go. It's a picture of a walking pool of water. To go with satisfaction. Shem Imhotep. So that's what that means. That's one greeting. Another greeting that's equally as important that was used by people every day is Ankh Uja Seneb, which means life, prosperity, and health. So another even better greeting to use is to say Ankh Uja Seneb. Ankh meaning life, Uja meaning prosperity, and Seneb means health. Ankh Uja Seneb. That is really how we greet each other. And it's also what you would say upon parting. And if you think about that, both of these are so much better than hi, because I'm not really sure what hi means, or hello, because you're actually, when you say Anku Jasaneb, you're actually wishing upon someone that they have life and prosperity and health. And it's very common throughout Africa, even today in Africa, to use a 3 or 4 word greeting saying life, prosperity, and health in whatever language the people speak is very, very common. So that is another important greeting. And I'd just like to say, Patah, I have a conversation book that people can look at. It's called Nejat Wafa, which means conversation book. And there are lots of different conversations in Medu Necher and in Medu Necher in English with English and English pronunciation on every aspect of daily life conversations. And that book they can also find on Amazon.com. But it's really nice, and the hieroglyphs are in there as well, the pictures and the English and the pronunciation, just of everyday conversation, because one of the things that I'm really pushing these days is speaking Medu Necher. Let us begin to speak our language, classical language. Let's use it in everyday life. That is one way that we are going to bring it to life, keep it alive, incorporate it into our lives, is to begin to speak it.
Absolutely. Definitely, you guys definitely got to get those books. I have them, love them. I mean, when I got your books, Dr. Rhkty, and I got the other books, these other books that were on, the dictionaries and stuff. I was confused on what the other books were saying. So every time that I want to actually say a phrase, I go back to your book. The conversational piece is so important because just that alone, you learn where the greetings are. It's well put together. There's just so much that I can say that just gives praises to it. In fact, I have the books with me. Let me see. This one right here. I wanted to bring the books out, so they got the little video camera up so you guys can see. The Writing System of Medu Neter, Ancient Egyptian Hieroglyphs by Dr. Rhkty Amin, the Institute of Kemetic Philology, And the artist was that did the work is Medu. Did I pronounce that correctly? And
right, Medu is the artist who did the covers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the other book that Dr. Rhkty was talking about is the Nejat Wafa, the conversational book, English to Medu Neter with hieroglyphs. Excellent books. You guys definitely got to put that onto your shelves. You'll learn a tremendous amount. So definitely go on to Amazon, buy the books. Also, you also have a website as well, Dr. Rhkty.
I do. I have a website, and it is called meduneter.com. MEDUNETER.com. And so there are a couple of interesting things on the website. All of my books are there. There's some Medu Neter flashcards there. I'm trying to think. I have a little blog there. You can say something on the blog, and I respond every now and then to the blog. So there are a couple of interesting things. Every now and then I will post a paper or something there as well. So you could take a look there. And I also announce classes that are going on there as well.
Excellent, excellent. Another question came up in the chat room. So they hear Hotep and then they hear Hetep. Is that the same thing? Hotep and Hetep is just a play on words like potato and potato?
Dua for the Weshadet. Weshadet means question, by the way. Yeah, it's just two different ways of pronouncing the picture of the offering table.
Right.
In Medu Neter, the vowels were not written. So the vowels are not there. So you just have the consonant structure, which is HTP. So in all of the different dialects of Medu Neter that were spoken over 10,000 years, from one end of the river to the other end of the river, the pronunciation varied. And so you could find people maybe in the north who would have said Hotep, or people in the south who would have said Ahatep, Ahatap, or people in one period would have said Hetep or Hetepu. The consonant structure, the HTP, is the root word there. The vowels do not matter that much. And so the pronunciation is understood by anyone who's listening, who speaks different dialects of it, of the Medu Neter, will understand what you're saying. So it's all fine. And that's one thing that's really important. And you know, there's some people, first of all, in order to, it's really important to understand that language, nature of languages are always changing. There's no such thing as one way of saying a word in any language on the planet Earth that is said that one way by all of its speakers and in all of the different historical periods of speaking that language. So understanding the dialectical nature of languages. For example, some people will say Amen. Other people say Amun. Other people say Amen, Amun, Amon, Emen, Yemen. Those are all the same word. And they all come from they're all the Medu Neter word to be hidden, to hide, to be hidden, unknown. They're all the same word, even though we pronounce them all these different ways. But the root of the word is the same. And that's another thing about Medu Neter writing. Everybody who spoke all the different dialects of Medu Neter over the 8,000 plus year period of the writing could read the same written script, even though their dialects were different. Their spoken dialects were different. So that's another really important thing about Medu Neter. So when you look at the word Amen, 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 Amon, Yemen in writing, it's the same. It's this one picture, and how we pronounce it, whether you live in the north or the south or the east or the west, or whether you lived in 8,000 BC or 600 AD, the word is, you know this, however it is you pronounce.
Excellent. Another. Have you heard of Abkhazia? I may be pronouncing that wrong. Abkhazia? Is that how you say it? I'm not sure if that's not. You don't recognize that word, do you?
I don't recognize it. Is it a Medu Neter word?
I don't know. It was a question that popped up in the chat room. but I do not know what Abkhazia, Abkhazia, which is like that's a place. But okay, we're gonna keep it moving. Another question that I guess we have is is there a difference with the alphabet? Meaning like you have in English ABCs and that thing, and in Metanetta it's different. It's more sounds that's going in there. Could you expand on that?
Yes, Tiu. Tiu means yes, by the way. In Medu Neter, there are different parts of the writing system. There are sounds that are represented with one picture, represents one sound, and you could say that that's the same as an alphabet. It's like monoliteral, like B, P, M, N, R, etc. One picture equals one. But also, in addition to those, there are about 25 of those types of sounds. But there are also sounds where you have one picture that represents one syllable. So Medu Neter would be called a syllabary. So that would be like Au, Ia, Ma, Min, Mo, Mi, Mer. Those are syllabic sounds that represent one syllable or two consonants. And then in addition to that, we have a group of sounds, are triconsonantal, like Nfer, Nefer, Ma'a, etc. So the Medu Neter writing system is not alphabetic. Words were not spelled alphabetically in Medu Neter. So it's not just 25 or 27 monoliteral sounds. It includes a syllabary of sounds. Medu Neter is not an alphabetically written language. So you can isolate and talk about 25, alphabetic or monoliteral sounds, but that does not represent the sounds of Medu Neter. You also have to be able to talk about the syllabary as well. So it's not just an alphabetically written language. I'll leave it there. I hope that everybody could understand that. It might sound a little complex.
Yes, I think they should be able to understand that. But I was gonna say one thing that I've noticed just with myself is that when I read words, I don't really read. I'm not really reading the words and trying to comprehend it. I actually start thinking in kind of symbols. Where I start to see words, especially as a poet, you start to see phrases and really paint a picture in that way. And one thing that I wanted to drop in is that when we look at English may have like a whole, bunch of words that mean one phrase, but yet you can look at one symbol, like you said, if you look at the offering table as the meaning of Hotep, you end up going, wow, you have this entire paragraph of words that represent that one symbol. And this is something that's important, I think, personally, as far as language is concerned. Now, when somebody's reading something, they don't have to see this whole gigantic paragraph, which is kind of hard on the eyes. They see one symbol and they go, okay, I get it. This is what they're saying. That's just my thoughts on how I'm learning and why it's important getting back to reading things in symbols. Again, I bring it back to the hip hop with those that are immersed in the culture of hip hop, and not the rap music but the hip hop joints. When you look at graffiti artists would tell an entire story in just their way of writing or tagging a wall. And same thing with somebody's lyrics. Somebody could say a few sentences, and it could paint an entire picture. So the metaneta, I always say that when I look at the glyphs, when I start to actually look at the symbols, I'm like, wow, look at this beautiful picture that's being painted. You know.
Right. That is so true, Pata, because Medu Neter, of course, is a picture language. The letters or the sounds are represented by pictures of everything in nature. And each one of those pictures represents a sound and a word and a pictorial meaning. And every one of them is used in more than one way, either as a sound or a word or a picture. And it may have even multiple meanings. There is such a depth of meaning from the pictures themselves. And so it makes learning Medu Neter, first of all, a lot of fun and easy, because you even in just one symbol, as you say, you see so much meaning just from the picture. And the pictures add to the meaning of the word, the pictures add to the meaning of the phrase, and the depth of meaning in Medu Neter, there's not even any words to explain how much depth there is in an amazing language. There is not another language like it. There are other pictorial languages, but it doesn't kind of pictorial meaning and representation or depth of meaning. And not only do the pictures have depth of meaning, different as well. The way they face have multiple.
Dr. Rhkty, you still with us?
Yeah, there's a lot of noise in the background on my phone. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, because you did break up for just a minute. Let me see here. We all right on there? Okay. All right. So you can still hear us?
Yes, to you.
Okay.
I can.
All right, Nijin. You were saying?
I was talking about the depth of meaning of the pictures. That a picture can be sound, a word, or just meant to be visual. There's not another language that has that's set up in that way, where one picture is a sound, can be a sound, a word, or just a visual representation, and on top of that have more than one meaning or multiple meanings or different levels of meanings just for one picture, which could be used in the writing of other words. There isn't another pictorial language that is organized that way. I also have studied Chinese for many years and know how to read it and write Chinese. And Chinese is another pictorial language with pictures, but it is not the same as a pictorial language as Medu Neter is. The depth of meaning here is completely off the charts, I'll say it that way. And learning it is easy because of the pictures, and more fun and more interesting. And it also stimulates other parts of our brain and our being, as kind of like as you were saying, when we read the Medu Neter.
Absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head right there. One thing that just came to me when I started learning and started reading and writing the Medu Neter, I started to just, all of these creative juices just started flowing, in not just in my poetry, but in mathematics, where I just started to see certain equations, see how certain things work, metaphysics. Everything that I was doing, it was almost as if it just opened up that throat chakra, and even my first eye chakra, to just reach these realms where I started to pull things down and manifest it on the physical. For example, I have a box that I house these Kemetic oracle cards. And from that vision of having one buying the cards, it said, go ahead and start drawing symbols out. And I didn't even lay it out. I just started drawing on the box. And as a result, it turned into this beautiful hieroglyphic picture. And I was like, wow, this is amazing how that it all put together. And I didn't even have that in my thought process of how I was going to lay it out. It just came together. So that's something else that I want to say that is so important when you start learning a pictorial language, because it opens up your creative juices. It really does, and another, like you said, even on for people that are interested in their finances and business, you can do the same thing there. You know what I mean? And you'll see people that are in real estate, you'll start seeing things a lot differently. Well, you guys can like, for example, one thing that I like to do as far as real estate is concerned is I like to look at a house and say, hey, you can do certain artistic things with it. And when you have that artistic look and reading of a language, that seeps into your creative juices itself when you start to go and build things. So I love that. That's my my take on that. I love that. You still there, Dr. Rhkty?
Yes, I am. I'm to you. I'm still here.
Yeah. So I just had to go on that little thing there. Another question that popped up in the chat room is the Rosetta Stone. Who was that? There was a Jean-Jacques Champollion, I think, is the guy that the French dude that found it or something like that. Well, I guess the question is how does the Rosetta Stone relate? I thought the Rosetta Stone was part of Kemet, right?
How does it relate? Well, it probably brings up a story, the story that's told out here about how Medu Neter was deciphered. It's a story not told by us, by the way. Mm-hmm. It's the story that the Western scholars tell about how the language was deciphered. This is their story, not our story, okay? And they say that it was because of the Rosetta Stone and the discovery of Champollion, who discovered the alphabetic nature of some of the pictures because of the Rosetta Stone. But I'd like to start off by saying that whole story is their made-up story for their own agenda, but it has nothing to do with truth at all. Because first of all, the Medu Neter never really died. From the ancient Medu Neter, it never really died. It continued to be spoken in various dialectical forms right there in the Nile Valley region, and it further was kept alive in different temples and different churches. So there's always been people continuously who kept the Medu Neter alive and who spoke the latest stage of the language, which is Coptic, up until the 17th century almost, who larger groups of people. So Champollion didn't discover anything. That almost sounds like Columbus came here and discovered America, you know, and then Columbus credit with discovering America, but it was already here and people were already living here. The same thing with the Medu Neter. So I'd forget about that story, honestly, because it's just their story for their own agenda. So I just really lay that aside completely and not even think about it again.
Absolutely.
I have this piece on my paper. I have this piece on my website about who really deciphered Medu Neter or something on my website. It's kind of interesting. It kind of different people who did a lot of translations back to ancient times of the Medu Neter. So I think so. Anyway, that's their story.
Absolutely.
And they made up.
Yes, that they made up, and that's the thing that brings me into this realm. You know, there's people that will look at movies or images. It's the same kind of thing where you know that the people, the movies that you see where they're gonna try to put an image that's different than what the culture is. You know, so when you see that already, you gotta tune that out or flip the image and say, no, that's their representation and it's not true. And so that goes with I mean, I had a conversation with one guy. This is on the hip hop, where he was trying to say Eminem started hip hop, and I thought, how misconstrued is this child? So I got him a copy of Brother Black Dot's book, Hip Hop Decoded, and started giving him the history on because again, this is another way of people feeding into someone else's reality that's not necessarily true. Or it should say, is not true at all, period. So I'm glad you touched bases on that, because that's something that's been popped up. One thing the brother did say in the chat room was he meant the software. I think that's more of a metaphysical question. Okay, Rosetta Stone's that does... Oh,
okay. Oh, Rosetta Stone, the software for learning a language. Okay. I have used Rosetta Stone. I've used it, and I have it for my grandchildren too, like for French, Chinese, Italian. There is no Rosetta Stone program for Medu Neter, however. Something that I have one of my students who's actually making an audio for the Mejat Wefa, the conversation book. And she said she was going to make it a mobile app. I really didn't know what she meant by that, but now I do. But to be able to look, because what you have with Rosetta Stone is you look at the word in the language and you listen to it being spoken, and then you get a chance to repeat after the program, repeat the words, and play yourself back saying the words. That's what's happening with Rosetta Stone. So maybe one day for Medu Neter. But for one thing, we are going to have something like that for the Mejat Wefa on a mobile app, where you could actually look at the word and repeat, listen and repeat for the conversation. And who knows, maybe some computer person one day will be able to put together a program like that for Medu Neter. That would just really be cool, really wonderful.
Absolutely. Oof. Boy, I would love that. I know like the other thing about the Medu Neter that for me that I've learned so much on is that when you see certain pictures and even if you don't, you may remember the pronunciation, and you'd be like, oh, what did that mean?
Right.
Then you look and go, oh, that's what it is, because you see the actual, picture. So if somebody asked me an English word and said, what does this mean? I go, I don't know. Let me get the dictionary. But when you're watching,
right.
When you're watching the or reading the Medu Neter, you'll see the picture and go, oh, maybe I don't know what this means. And then you go, oh, wait, that's a boat. Okay, that means go down the river or something. So it's there's so much that I can just say that's just wonderful about learning the language and why it's important for the children to get involved and it actually, here's the interesting thing, it's actually helped me with English even. And I know that's people be like, well, how does that really? No, it relates very much so, because then when you start to understand the pictorial language in Medu Neter, then you start to understand certain pronunciation of words. And then when I go to English, I go, okay, that's where this word came from. Then I can trace back some of the origins of the meaning of some word. One thing that the Christian family out there that they always say amen after the prayers and stuff, and when that comes from that deity or that netir that is in the hidden realms, like you said, Amun and Amen. So love that. Well, let's see. Is there any more questions in the chat room? Somebody brought up some movie that I'm not even gonna feed my interest and my energy into that.
Yeah, but while you're looking at that, I say that just to follow up on something we were talking about a little earlier, and that is their story, our story, their interpretation, our interpretation. There's not a whole lot of there's not, or should I? Let me go back a little bit. There's a lot of information or books out there on ancient Egypt. Language books, picture books, history books that were not written by us, but were written by Western scholars. And those books, a lot of them just simply don't really have the real truth, and a lot of them are filled with misinformation. Whether it was intentional or not doesn't really matter. So what's important, because they're so available, you just go in a bookstore, you go in a section, and you see ancient Egypt, and you see, 100 books on ancient Egypt, everything about it, that were books not written by us. We have to learn how to be, and I always warn people to be very careful about what you take from those books, because so much is inaccurate and not from an African perspective. You have to be very, very careful, just like the Book of the Dead. And reading Wallace Budge, and you think you're reading about, death and dying. But everything that Western scholars have put out there is just not completely accurate. And many Africans be very hard to change that and to put new books from our own perspective out there, whether it's about the language or about history and culture. And so, just be very careful about what you're reading, and maybe find somebody who knows a little bit more about things than you do to ask them some questions, just to cross-reference, because there's so much misinformation about Kemet out there. So much.
Well, here's an interesting question. Who did you learn from when you started to get into learning the Medu Neter?
Dua for the Weshadet. I like that. Weshadet, that question. Okay, so when I was in college, back in the 60s, Dr. Ben Yakanan used to come to the University of Illinois and give lectures, and I would go and listen to him. And he was talking about Kemet. And that really sparked my interest in Kemet. And I was going to school to study linguistics. I just love languages. I just love learning languages. And so when I found out about Medu Neter, I just really said, that's the language I really need to be learning. So that's really what sparked my interest, listening to Dr. Ben and listening to all that he had to say about Kemet. And then when I got an opportunity, a unique and wonderful opportunity to actually go to a school that taught Medu Neter and Egyptology. That's where I went to learn, to actually formally study the language. But also around Chicago, where I'm from, there were other groups of people who were totally inspired by Dr. Ben as well, who had the foresight to realize the importance of Medu Nature. And one of those people was Dr. Jacob Carruthers and the people at the Kemet Institute in Chicago. And so we started study groups studying together. And particularly studying together, but putting together study groups and teaching children. We had a children's Saturday class, etc. So that's where my whole beginnings with Medu Nature really comes from Chicago, and studying formally and working with the people at the Kemet Institute and Dr. Carruthers. That's where it all started for me.
Excellent. As you guys know, those of you that do not know Dr. Ben, get on the YouTube, understand, or get on the Google. He's one of the master teachers that everyone that's in this sort of metaphysical realm should know, and people that are going to learn about ancient Kim. And
I'd like to add to that. Almost all of us who are Kemetologists, Egyptologists talking about Kemet today were inspired by Dr. Ben, and he's like the father of Kemetic studies. He really is, and he was just the inspiration for all of us, and we cannot praise him enough for bringing Kemet to the forefront.
Absolutely.
Cannot.
A question. This is going to be the last question. So can I purchase that 7 DVD set from your website?
It is on the website. Yes, it is. The book and it's all digital though. This is an ebook, and so the DVDs are digital as well. It's all digital. I do have it in the form of a CD. So in other words, you can also actually purchase the paperback, the actual book, of Amazon.com, and then I have for sale. What am I trying to say here? The CDs that go along with the book, or you can purchase the ebook, and the audio files are also digital to go along with the ebook, and they're sold together on the website.
Excellent. I always recommend people, not just to get the ebooks and MP3s when they download things, but also get the hard copy. And one of the reasons is when you have a hard copy of a book, you actually are not staring at a screen, which is pixelated. Likewise with sound, I really would like to have LPs than CDs and MP3s, which are they cut off a lot of the audio from a record, from a recording. So likewise when you deal with books, ebooks out there, it's good to have them so you can go on your Nook or your what's the other device, the Kindle. It's great to have. You can have like 1,000 books on it. Myself, I travel around with a big bag of books to actually read, because I like having the hard copies. So, say that again.
Yeah, I said hard copies are really nice, but the younger generation, I noticed that they don't really like that they really want everything digital. Like my grandchildren, for example, they really do. But the world is changing.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. All right. Say again.
I don't know. We're coming to an end.
Yes. There's one of the sisters in the studio said that I'm old because I like the books, the hard copies. Yeah, I'm gonna say that on air. I say no, that's not true. The young people like the books. We gonna get the young people back into the books too. But yes, you're right though. The world is changing, and a lot of a lot of young people, I know that and I'm guilty of this too, where I just want to get things instantly right away, and the more the information is kind of coming through, sometimes it's even good to kind of take a break on a lot of the information that's just dumped onto the children, as far as some of the YouTube things. But anyways, I gotta jump on the sister about that, saying people still should pick up the books. That's my forte on that. But yes, the children are wanting their electronic stuff as we get old, or as the.
By the way, just want to say the children's book I talked about early. You can get it digitally on my website. And the reason I'm saying that is because the children often, have iPads or those little digital reading booklets, and they read the books too. So the children's book on my website.
Excellent. All right. So Dr. Rhkty, I think we're gonna close the show out here. I'm getting the signal from the engineer. Thank you so much. Dua Woo. Did you have anything further that you want to add?
Not really. It's just that there are many opportunities out here for people to learn and study Medu Neter. With me, and there are others. Quite a few of my students are also amazing teachers who have online classes. I really encourage everyone to learn Medu Neter and teach it to the children. It is so important. It really is our classical African language, and there's so much for us to learn from it, and that's why they put it in writing for us, for posterity, to continue to learn from their divine wisdom. So I encourage everyone to please learn some Medu Neter at least, and teach that to the children.
Absolutely. Let's see. So some things. There is a sister, Jennifer, who couldn't be here in the studio today, but she's a herbalist, and she does a show called the Herbal Intellect Show, and that is from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. And she is also the owner of Rhkty Botanicals, health with herbs, assisting on the healing process. So I wanted to put that in. Dr. Rhkty again.
And the name of her business is Rhkty. You said that right?
To you.
So that's a Medu Neter word meaning be healthy. And that is the name of her herbal business. And so she's using a Medu Neter words for her business. And I love it.
Yes, it's excellent.
Yeah.
And you can get a whole lot.
Yes.
I just bought it's great moringa leaf, which you can use in a tea. And one thing that I've been doing is actually taking it and putting it in a dish. You can make a lot of these herbs you can actually take that are kind of like, it's like greens and stuff. I put like onions and garlic and all that, and it was just a good dish that I made out of it. Moringa leaf tea, or moringa leaves, that you can get from her website, and it's excellent. All right. You know me, I can talk for days. Thank you so much, Dua Woo, Dr. Rhkty. As we close out, and I say Uncle Ja Seneb and Shemim Hotep.
Dua Woo, Uncle Ja Seneb, Shemim Hotep. Shem.
Trouble sleep, young gago wake up. Waiting they find.
Palava, he dey find.
Palava, he go get you.
Palava, he go get.
Palava. When cat sleep, rat go bite him tail. Waiting they find.
Palava.
Palava, he go get you. Oh,
Palava, he go get.
Palava, Janet lost him job. Him sit down for house. Him they think of job. Mr. Landlord come wake him up. He say, Mister, pay me your rent. Wait till they find.
Palava, he dey find.
Palava, he go get you. Oh,
Palava, he go get.
Palava, he go get you. My friend just come from prison. Him they look for work. Waka waka day and night. Policeman come stop him for road. He say, Mister, I charge you for wandering. Wait till they find.
Palava, he dey find.
Palava, he go get you. Oh,
Palava, he go get.
Palava. Mr. Husband marry for church. He make big party. Then he start to spray. Because him love him wife. Mrs. Wife, come run away. Bank manager, run, come. He say me stop, pay me your debt. Wait till they find for Lagos, yo. My lover, he go get you. My lover, he go get. My lover, when trouble sleep, young go wake come. Wait till they find. My lover, he dey find. My lover, he go get you. My lover, he go get. My lover, he go get you. When cat sleep, rat go bite him tail. Wait till they find. My lover, he dey find. My lover, he go get you. My lover, he go get. My lover, he go get you.